I want to acknowledge that we're meeting on the land of the Gadigal Wongal people, and I pay my respects to elders past and present. Acknowledge my colleagues, Anthony Albanese, Mayor Darcy Byrne, all the elected representatives. I want to give a particular shout out to our fantastic residential action groups, to the Save Marrickville South group and to Save Dully. Let's give them a round of applause. It was only a very short few months ago that we were here to discuss the government's ill-conceived plans for mass rezoning of our suburbs, their so-called Sydenham to Bankstown renewal plans. At that meeting, hundreds of residents made their opposition crystal clear to the government's colour-by-number approach to rezoning our suburbs. Many residents at that meeting raised the prospect of a monolithic development at Carrington Road. The details were hazy. But now our worst fears are here. It's a development of 2,616 apartments, multiple towers. It is Walleye Creek on steroids. Vital losses of employment lands, creative industries, 1,400 local jobs, no detail of affordable housing, critical lack of open space and community infrastructure. And of course, the proponent is proposing this massive development be wholly built on a floodplain, under a flight path and next to a busy freight line. Let me be absolutely clear. I am personally completely opposed to this absurd proposal, and I will stand with you and each and every member of this community to fight it off all the way. I am also very pleased to announce tonight that a state Labor government would immediately tear up the plans, the government's plans for priority precincts and for the Sydenham to Bankstown renewal plan. And I want to quote my colleague, Michael Daly, the Deputy Leader, and hopefully our future Minister for Planning and Infrastructure, when last night he said this. He said, "Let me say to these developers that are door knocking today, door knock, take out options, purchase properties at your own risk. Because when I am Planning Minister for Infrastructure in March 2019, we'll be taking Anthony Roberts' Liberal plans for density along the Sydenham to Bankstown line and putting them in the shredder." Any rezoning in our community has got to be done in consultation with the community, in full partnership with our democratically elected local council through proper LEP processes, and with schools, hospitals, childcare centres, parks and community infrastructure at its heart. That's got to come first. We all understand we need some development, but it's got to be thoughtful, it's got to be architecturally designed, it's got to be sustainable, it's got to respect our unique heritage and the character of our suburbs. We know we're becoming a bigger city, but we also want to fight to be a bold and beautiful city, and one that functions in the interests of our community, not in the interests of developers. When I was Mayor of Marrickville, I championed the development of the Sydenham Creative Hub, and that was an innovative rezoning of industrial lands around Sydenham Station. That plan would protect and preserve our industrial activity in the neighbourhood, and it would allow our creative industries to thrive. It would, if it was approved, it would see more breweries, more small bars, places for live music, theatre performance, operating at the same time alongside the panel beaters and factory warehouses. All the grit that we love and the creativity together. We'll see change, but that change has got to happen organically. Part of that creative energy that's happening, which protects and also supports the existing industry. Now that is in stark contrast to the proposal we have from Mirvac about Carrington Road. As John mentioned, the fantastic Made in Marrickville report explains what goes on at Carrington Road. There are prop makers, creative studios, places that help our creative city, supporting a vibrant and growing arts industry. And that shouldn't be surprising, of course, because the precinct is full of fantastic large open spaces made for making noise and experimenting and making the impossible possible. Those creative industries sit perfectly alongside neighbours engaged in traditional heavy industry and manufacturing. All of that is risked by this proposal, which will obliterate the industrial mix on the site and lock it up in residential towers. Look, I note the proponent has suggested that a proportion of the land will be set aside for creative industries, but we have to resist the kind of development that risks eradicating our creative hub and making it a kind of a fragment of a living museum dwarfed by 35-storey buildings. It's just not good enough. I also think we need to foster development that respects our local environment, and I'm pretty sure that 2,600 apartments on an old swamp doesn't do that. The renderings of the proposal have nice green fields and paths, but let's be honest, artists' impressions are often that, just impressions. We know that Mackie Park is under incredible pressure. Just ask the Red Devils about that. We do not have enough spaces for our kids to play now. We also know that the Cooks River is under immense pressure with litter and runoff and sewerage, and this community has worked very hard for decades to improve that water quality and surround. So I ask, how on earth will that river cope with the kind of density nearby? There's also no doubt that these towers would overshadow our parks, overshadow our homes, both in South Marrickville and Tempe, and I think particularly of the schools as well, like Fern Court and the Tempe Public School communities. These towers are just absurd, and if you need any further proof, I recommend to you the Lego model made by Marrickville South. It makes it pretty stark. Look, no matter which way you look at it, this is classic overreach from developers. It is overdevelopment, pure and simple. So what can we do? What can we do about it, friends? You have here tonight Labor representatives from every level of government fighting with you. You have community groups fighting with you, and you can join them here tonight, and I encourage you to do that. There will be opportunities to make submissions and to fight this every step of the way through the planning process, and you will be led by a democratically elected local council, and that's a good thing. I also want to bring to your attention some cards that I've handed out tonight. These have a fairly strongly worded letter to the Premier on the back. All you have to do is sign it and hand it into my staff at the back, and please take some more for your friends and neighbours. You know what else you can do? Is you can email, call, Facebook message, basically harass the Premier and the Minister for Planning. They need to know. They need to know this community is completely against their crazy plans and this crazy plan for Carrington Road. I want you to let me know too. Visit my office, send me an email about the kind of Marrickville you want and the kind of city we can create together. Look, I want you to know too that I'll always stand with you and fight to save our inner west suburbs. Thank you.